Welcome back to the Pleb Underground. I am your host, Phil. Thank you very much for joining me. All right, guys, we have a lot of stuff to cover. It looks like we've got an update on those 3 crypto bills that are moving through the House. Also, there's another Bitcoin treasury company that was announced today, of course. We also have some news out of Shake Shack, and it looks like it looks like I may have found a really good source for because a lot of times people won't listen to Bitcoin plebs about investments like MSTY, right? So because I mean, what the hell do I know, right? I'm just some dude that likes talking about Bitcoin. So was able to track down a really helpful clip from another YouTube channel, which I'm going to post in the show notes, and that is an interview with the CIO and co-founder of Tidal. Right, which is the essentially the company that creates the YieldMax product. So you know what, you guys, you don't have to listen to me. Listen to the guy who invented it. Anyways, before we dive into all of this stuff, you know the deal. We're going to give some love to the Pleb Underground sponsor, and we'll be right back to dive in all the fun that is going on. This is like the week that never ends. Here we go. Pleb Underground is sponsored by Archimedes Emporium. Discover the pinnacle of precision engineering, starting with their Bitcoin logo wall clock, meticulously machined in Maine from a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminum, ensuring unparalleled durability and performance. Experience the difference of a product made without compromise. Head on over to Archimedes Emporium. Yeah, that's right. Archimedes, beautiful work. Let's see what we've got. So, as we all know, right, the House GOP clears procedural hurdle for the crypto bills, unfreezing the floor. That's right. This happened late last night. Let's go take a look at the news story.
Good morning, Frank. Well, yeah, there was that breakthrough last night after that record-setting 9-hour standoff on the House floor. But now key crypto bills, they've cleared their final hurdle before they can actually get to passage. So what happened was about a dozen some hardliner members, they did vote to advance the bills after getting a guarantee that a ban on a central bank digital currency, that provision would be included in must-pass legislation that's going to come up later this year. This puts Crypto Week potentially back on track.
I think the XRP army was waiting for this this announcement that there would be a CBDC. Apparently more of their hopium just isn't real. What a surprise.
Setting the stage for potential votes as early as today on long-awaited legislation that the crypto industry has been pushing for. Congressman Andy Harris, he's the chair of the House Freedom Caucus and was one of the holdouts. He said the agreement was a significant win for the American people, as a government-controlled digital currency poses a direct threat to financial privacy and economic freedom. Again, the House is going to start voting. It could be as soon as this afternoon, it looks like, on some of these bills. But, Frank, as you kind of noted, they're going to be competing for floor time with that package to greenlight $9 billion in Doge cuts that's passed the Senate early this morning and has that Friday deadline. Plus, they're trying to get other government funding bills done. So we're going to see a lot of action in the House over the next 2 days. And there's already questions whether some of those crypto bills might get bumped to next week. But we do know that when we do expect to see the vote, we are anticipating that the 2 big ones will be bipartisan. Frank?
Okay. So obviously from that, right, we know who the players are. We know who the people are that are going to complain about this kind of stuff. So let's dive right into it. We've got some pretty funny clips here. One of them is, of course, Elizabeth Warren, and the other one is Brad Sherman. So let's take a look at this stuff.
Guardrails to make sure that crypto isn't used to blow up our entire economy. So I'm very worried about that, but I want to add one more twist, and that is the Clarity bill has all those problems, but it also has a provision in it that would let any company listed on the New York Stock Exchange opt out of SEC regulation by just digitizing themselves, put themselves on the blockchain, And all of a sudden, it turns out that Amazon or Meta or General Motors is
Okay, no, we're gonna have to stop there because Elizabeth Warren obviously is just freaking out about things that are just not true. And this doesn't surprise me, right? This doesn't surprise me one bit. Did a little digging, right? The Clarity Act does not allow publicly traded companies to bypass all SEC regulations. While it does aim to clarify the regulation landscape for digital assets, it does not eliminate SEC oversight entirely. The CFTC would have primary jurisdiction over certain digital assets, but the SEC still retains authority over digital assets that are considered securities and in other areas. Sorry, Elizabeth Warren, the FUD is just, it's not happening. But anyways, that obviously didn't stop Brad Sherman from also crying hard. So let's see what Brad had to cry about as well.
We consider major legislation to give credit to those who created the bill. The ghost of Sam Bankman-Fried looms above this auditorium. He is the genius behind the Genius Act, and one can only hope that he's able to watch C-SPAN on a black and white television set in his prison cell.
Pretty sure they have color. Just saying.
You don't have to be a genius to know that this bill is an attack on working families. That's why the AFL-CIO says no, and they are scoring it. They call it stablecoin. It's not stable. It's not a coin. It's a money market account that under this law must pay 0% interest. So who wants to forgo a 4% rate of return and get a 0% return in stablecoin? Those who are desperate for what cryptocurrency offers. Cryptocurrency literally means hidden money. And these stablecoins are exempt from the anti-money laundering provisions. Thus, it meets...
I'm sorry, I gotta cut in. This is the thing about Bitcoin, right? When you get into Bitcoin, you start diving into all of these different narratives. And let's just be clear, right? The majority of money laundering is done using the banking rails. Okay, KYC AML provides a framework. Okay, it provides a framework for criminals to figure out what information they need in order to provide this so that they can use legacy rails to do this type of stuff. So this is complete nonsense. Brad is essentially trying to concern troll us into thinking that this somehow makes things worse. But really what it is that it maybe moves the power structure to somebody else other than, what we'll say, maybe it's not necessarily his buddies, but we'll just, give it a blanket statement and call it the good old boys. But this is complete nonsense. Okay. We've shown time and time again, all of these different companies like Standard Charter, what is it? Wells Fargo. And I can't even think of the 5 other, Wachovia, right? Like all these different ones, like all of them doing money laundering. Banks. Okay. So this is just nonsense.
The needs perfectly of drug dealers, human traffickers, sanctions evaders, those who are hiding.
So about the drug dealers, right? And again, right, me providing counterpoints to what he's saying, like I'm not condoning this behavior. I'm just trying to draw attention to the fact that these guys they're just absolutely LARPing. So when it comes to drugs, right, we see all these people getting arrested in these, lower, possibly poorer neighborhoods, right, rougher neighborhoods, stuff like that. You think these guys own boats? Hey, you think the guy living in that neighborhood that's like totally rotten with crime and drugs, you think he's got some kind of pull at the Port Authority? Or is it the bigger business people, right? Is it the bigger businesses that can actually afford the infrastructure to hide all of this stuff? Anyways, it's just so unbelievable.
Assets from their former spouses and tax evaders. And just to be clear, the Republicans rejected unanimously in committee a provision to prevent mixers. Mixers are devices whose sole purpose is to defeat even top law enforcement efforts pursuant to a warrant. And under this bill, the mixers will be used to defeat law enforcement. Republicans claim to be against crime in the streets, but they're creating a device whose sole purpose is to facilitate crime in the suites. Pit it to
What? Crime in the suites? I'm pretty sure he made a mistake on that one. But yeah, let's be clear, right? So this is where we get into some older Bitcoin debunking, or we'll say some debunking FUD, right? Most of the technologies that we enjoy today, I know it's going to sound really probably bad, but most of these technologies were indeed used for crime at the beginning. And again, I'm not condoning criminal behavior. I'm just simply explaining that the technological edge, okay, this is what people look for. So, you know who was using cell phones first in regular everyday society, right? It was drug dealers, right? It was criminals. They were the ones that were using these things. When it comes to pagers, who do you think was using pagers, right? And it's not just doctors and nurses, right? It was also drug dealers as well. Why? Like people sit there and say, oh, well, you know, because it makes this all easier. So one thing that people don't seem to understand when it comes to criminal behavior and whatnot, there is something called friction. Okay. And essentially, this is the aspect of that behavior, for the most part, that actually is dangerous, right? It's the friction aspect, the actual transaction. So for example, if somebody is going to buy an illicit substance or something like that, well, the ability for them to be able to send Bitcoin and simply receive whatever it is that they're looking for, it just removed that point of friction in the transaction, right? So now the person buying this thing no longer has to worry about getting stabbed, right? They don't have to worry about getting mugged or something like that. It just removed that aspect of the friction. And that's exactly what that does. So his framing, Brad's framing in particular, is dangerous because that is not the entire purpose. And the other piece of it is this, right? If you've ever been debanked, you completely understand why you should be holding Bitcoin in self-custody. And you should have your own keys. Like, you completely understand. For me, like that's a no-brainer. Like, I get the NGU stuff. I love the NGU stuff. I'm not going to say I don't. But for me, I am a person who has experienced being debanked. So that is the most important aspect of Bitcoin for me. Those other aspects are also great. I appreciate them. But for me, that's the main one. The main one is that they can't mess with my money. Anyways. Yeah, so there's still, I mean, I know that people are cheering and that like, oh yeah, you know, this is going through and it's all happening, but there's debates. I mean, look, let's be honest, right? All three of these bills are going to pass, right? And they're all going to, you know, they're going to make the whatever show they make out of it. But like I said yesterday, all the people who have hopium that this somehow means anything real for Bitcoin, like you're just buying the nonsense from the cheerleaders. I'm sorry, guys. Anyways, okay, so we are going to move on from whatever those three bills are going to do, and yeah, let's take a look at some quick news here about oh, whoops, that's not it. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. So Adam Back, or as Rob Hamilton called him yesterday, which by far is my favorite, Adam Spack. I thought that was pretty clever. So yeah, Adam Back led Bitcoin treasury company announces to go public. That's right. And for the people who are paying attention, right, that is going to be that. Well, it says right here, ticker SEPO. All right, so there we go. We got another Bitcoin treasury company. Oh, what is it? 1.5 billion of pipe financing, and I believe they're starting off. What is it? 30,000 Bitcoin. Not bad. Anyways, all right. So there we go. Got another treasury company. Yay, I guess. All right. Moving on from the treasury companies. I'm done yelling about them. I know you guys, you don't want to hear it. We're going to have Pierre on tomorrow anyways. So, you know, you could just throw your comments in there if you want. I know everybody just wants cheerleaders and to say that this is what makes Bitcoin go to the moon and this is all about adoption. So here you go, guys. It's wonderful. Another Bitcoin treasury company. Great. All right. So Steak and Shake. That's right, guys. That's right. We're not going to get a CBDC. Okay. We've got inflation through the roof, right? Clearly the money is broken. I appreciate what Steak and Shake is doing, though, because we should have Coca-Cola with real cane sugar instead of high fructose or high glucose fructose corn syrup. Anyways, Yeah, that's good stuff. Steak and Shake. You know what? I do feel that the Steak and Shake's adoption of Bitcoin is slightly different than the adoption curves, or at least the adoption hype that I've seen from previous companies go through it. Right, like Microsoft and even Tesla. I feel like Steak and Shake is really grabbing the bull by the horns, right? And they're running with this. So, hats off to you guys. Good job. Yeah, exactly, ACP. That's what I was saying yesterday, too. I was in a space, we were talking about that. It's Mexican Coke. That's all it is. So, which is fantastic, because whenever I go to a restaurant, like let's say I go to like Chipotle or something, I always order the Mexican Coke instead of the regular Coke, because why not have the cane sugar instead? If I'm going to be doing the diabetes thing, you may as well use the best ingredients possible. Anyways. All right. That's it for Steak and Shake. Okay. Finally, here we go. Right, the Misty stuff, because of course nobody wants to listen to stupid broke plebs that have been hodling Bitcoin for 10 years. No, you need creds. You need the creds. You need to feel good. You need to feel like you're listening to somebody who's a genius, so that way you feel like a genius. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I like that stuff too. All right. So here we go. Let's dive into it. Okay. So this right here. Sorry, guys. Okay. So this is on Marco Milla's channel. All right. And this is the gentleman that is on the screen is the CIO and co-founder of Tidal, Michael Venuto. So this guy knows this product better than anyone else, probably. Okay. Definitely better than your favorite dude on Twitter, or me, right? So you don't have to listen to me. We're going to listen to what Michael has to say about his own product. And guys, of course, the link is going to be in the show notes. So if you want to go back and listen to this whole thing, because you've decided, oh, he took him out of context, that's not really what he said. Well, you can go back and go listen to this. Okay. But here we go. This is where the juicy part starts.
What I want to do is tell you what not to do. Do not get a HELOC and buy Misty. Don't do it. All right. Like, you cannot put your entire life there. It scares me to death. I don't want to see any more tweets about that. All right. You can use diversification to protect yourself. I understand the Bitcoin maxis. They want to, so it's okay. The Bitcoin maxi, you believe the world's going to change. I've owned Bitcoin since 2015. I'm a big believer. You can't just look at these things as a panacea. What people call NAV erosion, I don't believe in that term. It's relative beta, which means if the stock goes down, your YieldMax fund is going to go down too. That's not eroding the NAV. That's relative beta to the underlying stock, right? So I don't know why people don't understand sometimes that when you buy a YieldMax fund, you're basically taking almost as much downside as buying the underlying stock. There's a slight difference because you have some call premium, but it's not different enough. So if MicroStrategy drops 50%, you should expect Misty to be down 45%. I want to make sure everybody's heard that. Right? So tips for using them, I prefer YieldMax. That's
okay. I just got to figure out how to, there we go. Stop the screen sharing. From Michael Venuto himself, right? So it's not even me telling you, with my inability to express, very specific maths, right? This is from the guy who made the product. Okay. So just take a step back. Don't pay so much attention to the exuberance. All right. This is a whole lot of FOMO. Okay. If you are buying Bitcoin, you're stacking Bitcoin, you're moving it to self-custody, you don't need any of this noise. Oh, it's all just noise. Anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. We are done, but look out for tomorrow. That's right. This time it's actually happening. All right. Confirmation from Pierre. All right. It is happening. We are going to have Pierre on the show. It is going to be myself, Ulrich, and that's right. We are going to talk about not Misty or any of that stuff. We are specifically going to talk about the Bitcoin treasury companies. And I want to hear his perspective, which I believe part of it has to do with the speculative attack. And we are going to dive into all that fun stuff. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. I will catch you all on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.